Imagine being 5 years old, fast asleep in the comfort of your home, and you're suddenly jolted awake by a strange, piercing noise. It's an alarm, one you might expect to hear in a hospital before nurses come rushing in. The kind that signals something is wrong, very wrong. That was the reality for 5-year-old Jaley Brock on the morning of February 20th, 2025. Her father, James Brock, relied on a left ventricle assist device due to severe heart issues. The device was equipped with an external alarm that would sound if anything malfunctioned, especially while he was asleep. Jaylee didn't understand the technicalities, of course. Again, she was only 5. All she knew was that her mother, Kristen, always took care of Daddy. And this loud, relentless sound echoing throughout the house over and over and over was not normal. When Jaylee made her way to her parents' bedroom, she stumbled upon a scene that no child should ever have to witness. No human, let alone a child. Her father, James, was gone. Her mother, Kristen, she was too. And at first glance, it might have looked like they were peacefully asleep, if not for the 5 gunshot wounds that made the truth unmistakable. In her confusion and fear, Jaylee went to wake her older sister, Sarah, who then took on the devastating task of calling 911. From the moment first responders arrived, it was clear James and Kristen Brock had been murdered. But the question loomed, who would want to hurt this sweet couple? The discovery sent waves of panic through their small, tight-knit community and church family. The idea of a killer still out there created an urgent pressure on investigators to find answers and fast. Eventually, the case took a dark turn when the evidence started pointing to someone that no one expected, someone far more terrifying than just a random stranger. I am Lauren Matthias, and this is Hidden True Crime, where we delve into the unimaginable, digging into the darkest recesses of the human mind. And in this video, we're going through everything you need to know about this developing story, the investigation happening right now. This is breaking, so stay with us as we go over what officials believe happened to James and Kristen Brock. As the weather heats up, it's time to rethink your skincare, especially if you're using retinol. Why? Because retinol can make your skin more sensitive to the sun, and that's why our house has made the switch to OneSkin's OS01 Face Moisturizer, and we are not looking back. In lab studies, OS01 boosted collagen just like retinol, but without the sun sensitivity. Even better, it strengthens your skin barrier instead of breaking it down, helping protect against heat, pollution, and everything else the world throws at your skin. Dr. John and I both use it. We love it. No irritation, no stickiness, just smooth, healthy skin that looks and feels youthful. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company, and by focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using code HIDDEN at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at OneSkin, ONESKIN.co with code HIDDEN. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support Hidden True Crime. Tell them we sent you. Give your skin the scientifically proven gentle care it deserves with OneSkin. The quiet and rural community of Tyus is located just outside of Carleton County in Carroll County, Georgia. According to those who live there, Tyus is known for its friendly and peaceful atmosphere, beautiful landscapes, and abundance of outdoor activities, making it a great place to live. This is the place that James and Kristen Brock, along with their blended family, called home. And anyone meeting James and Kristen for the first time would never guess the things that they have overcome in their life, the struggles that they had faced. James was born in Forest Park, Georgia, to his mother, Joanne Allen, on January 1st, 1980. Affectionately known as Jamie, he grew up alongside 2 brothers and a sister and attended Forest Park High School. Everyone who knew James said he had an amazing sense of humor. He was always cracking jokes and making everyone laugh. It doesn't seem like James and his siblings had their biological father in their life, and so it was especially hard for them when their mother, Joanne, passed away tragically in 1999. And then, following that passing, tragically, James's 2 brothers passed away as well, leaving only Jamie and his sister Kimberly to be there for one another. James eventually married a woman named Tiffany, and between 1996 and 2002, they had 3 sons named Tristan, Trenton, and Joseph. James and Tiffany's marriage didn't work out, and in March of 2013, he had another son, Jaden, with a woman named Jennifer. That relationship didn't last either, but James, Tiffany, and Jennifer all stayed close and worked well together as co-parents. No matter how things turned out romantically, it says a lot about co-parents when they can keep things positive for their kids that they are raising. It can't always be easy, but you can tell there was a lot of love in their family. And when it comes to Kristen Brock, Kristen was born on April 12th, 1983 to parents Luann and Dennis Nolan and grew up in Rome, Georgia. Both Luann and Dennis divorced and went on to get remarried, creating blended families on both sides. So Kristen had several step and half siblings. In 2007, Kristen married a man named Daniel Patrick, and they went on to have a daughter named Sarah Grace on April 28th, 2008. 4 years later, they had a son named Donnie in October of 2012. And even though their marriage didn't last, it seems as if they also did their best to maintain a friendly co-parenting relationship as well. Although they did have their ups and downs, which we will come back to in just a moment. James and Kristen started dating in 2017 and quickly discovered they had a lot in common. Both had been through divorces, both were parents, and both had faced struggles with substance abuse in the past. What brought them even closer was their desire to build a happy and healthy future together. And one of the steps they took was attending church, which became an important part of their journey. On October 1st, 2019, James and Kristen welcomed a baby girl together named Jaley Ann. They officially tied the knot in December of 2023, but unfortunately, their life together wasn't without hardships. James seemed like one of those people who couldn't catch a break, and life just kept throwing curveballs his way. Even after achieving sobriety, he began having serious health problems starting around 2022. And after going to the hospital, James found out he had a heart attack and was in congestive heart failure. This was extremely scary, of course, as his mother, Joanne, had heart problems as well and even underwent a heart transplant in 1990, just 9 years before she passed away. And so in October of 2022, doctors put a defibrillator in James's chest to help regulate his heart rhythm. However, his body began rejecting the defibrillator and he needed several more surgeries. In December, James had a heart catheter inserted through a vein in his neck to help drain excess fluid and reduce strain on his heart. He was told that in order to survive, he needed to undergo an LVAD surgery and eventually a heart transplant. LVAD surgery involves implanting a left ventricle assist device, which is a mechanical pump that helps the heart circulate blood when it's too weak to do so on its own. It's typically used for people with advanced heart failure, either while they're waiting for a heart transplant or can sometimes serve as long-term treatment itself. And the device is surgically attached to the heart and powered by a battery worn outside the body. And so during this time, Kristen, who had been working in the special education department for Cobb County Schools, well, she quit her job to become James's full-time caregiver. And after the LVAD surgery, James did well for a couple of months. However, in June of 2023, he began having problems again with his heart not pumping blood to the left side. He also was not placed on the heart transplant list yet because he hadn't made it to the point where he would medically qualify. The doctors even said that there was nothing else they could do for him, and his family was really, really hoping for a miracle. And it seems like perhaps a miracle did happen because even though he was still waiting for approval for his heart transplant, James kept on living. He had another brief scare in November of 2024 with a potential blockage in his lung, but after that, he seemed to be doing better. In fact, going into 2025, his sister Kimberly says he was doing better than ever. Through it all, one thing was certain. James was always surrounded by people who loved him. He often posted on Facebook about how thankful he was to have Kristen by his side. Going through something as serious as being on the brink of death can definitely bring people even closer, and it was clear their love only grew stronger. Despite all of these challenges, James never lost his sense of humor either. Hidden True Crime, we were able to speak to Kimberly's daughter, James's niece, whose name is also Kristen. And this Kristen was very close to her uncle. And she told us that even up until his surgeries, he was still cracking jokes and leaving her funny voicemails. She shared one that I think shows just how sweet and positive of a person James was.
I know you've probably seen that movie Ted with Mark Wahlberg and the teddy bear. And how at the end of it, it gets ripped apart. And then they sew him back together, and then they pray for him to be, alive again. And in the morning when he wakes up and he talks to him, he's like, I just want to tell you that I love you for something. That way, in case I wake up after the surgery and I can't talk and I'm going, you already know what I'm trying to say. I love you, girl.
And even though things seemed to be looking up, I do think it's important to share that there were still some challenges happening behind the scenes. As we know, life isn't always sunshine and rainbows. It's not what people always show on social media. And beyond the health issues, there were some personal struggles as well. In James and Kristen's case, that included custody disputes, marital ups and downs, and other relationship dynamics. And I don't want to focus too much on these things, but they're worth noting because anyone looking into this case will likely come across them on social media. It also helps provide some context for the bigger picture. Anyone who's struggled with addiction or has watched a loved one go through it knows that sobriety isn't always a straight path. More often than not, there will be bumps in the road, and James and Kristen had a few public arguments on Facebook and accused each other of using, being unfaithful, and things really that should have probably been kept private, especially because it seems like after these arguments, they were always able to smooth things over and come back together. However, one major argument that took place in August of 2022 did lead to Kristen getting arrested and charged with criminal damage to property and cruelty to children for allowing a child to witness family violence. So when we spoke to James's niece, she told me that this was because Jaley was present during a heated argument. This is not great. It's never okay for a child to see this type of adult conflict. Never. But again, this was in 2022, and both James and Kristen were on healing journals and coming together to move forward and trying to be better. While Kristen and her ex-husband Daniel have remained friendly for the most part, Daniel and his new wife did fight for custody of Sarah and Donnie during that time. There was definitely some hostility and turmoil, especially after the kids moved in with Daniel for a while. However, they eventually moved back in with Kristen after he and his new wife separated. And so, as you can see, there was just a lot going on. Like I mentioned before, what really seemed to help put Kristen and James's life in a more stable and positive direction was getting involved in their church, the Catalyst Church of Carrollton. Their website says they are a diverse, non-denominational Christian church who welcomes people from all walks of life. It was there that Kristen and James decided to get baptized. Just from studying their lives on social media, it's clear there was a major shift in their relationship, their happiness, their outlook on life, and everything seemed to change for the better once they became part of this church community. Sarah and Jaley were living with James and Kristen full-time, but they still saw all of their children on a regular basis. Things were finally just peaceful, or so it seems. Life with teenagers comes with its own set of challenges, and while everyone knew Sarah as a sweet, caring, and good kid, there were times when she did butt heads with her parents. At age 15, Sarah began dating a boy named Jackson Spradlin. While it's not clear when they broke up, it does seem like Jackson wasn't necessarily the best influence on Sarah and eventually did have some run-ins with the law for things like manufacturing and distributing a controlled substance, possession of a weapon during a commission of a felony, and possession of a firearm while under the age of 18. Breaking up was probably a pretty good thing because Sarah was doing really well in school and even on track to graduate a year early from Central High School in Carrollton. And actually, she would be the first person to graduate from high school in her family, and everyone was really encouraging her. However, according to family members, there was more contention when Sarah began dating a guy who was much older than her. Kristen and James apparently didn't approve of this new boyfriend either and put serious restrictions on Sarah being able to see him. But as I said, she was set to graduate in May of 2025, and even though she'd only be 17 when she graduated, she could go on to start her own life if that's what she chose to do. So let's move on to what took place just a few months ago in February of 2025. On the morning of February 20th, little Jaley, who at the time was just 5 years old, she woke up and made her way to her parents' room. And when she found the horrific scene of both of her parents, James and Kristen, shot dead in their bed, she went and woke Sarah up, who was asleep in the next room. And while she tried to shield Jaley from the nightmare, it was too late. After calling 911, first responders and police arrived and immediately began their investigation. Who could have done this and why? When the rest of the family was notified, James's son, Jaden, thought that it could have been an overdose at first. That was until he learned the reality of the situation, that his dad and stepmom had been murdered. James and Kristen didn't own a gun, so it couldn't have been self-inflicted. And it seemed as though whoever did the shooting took the gun with them. Investigators noticed that nothing had been taken from the home and there wasn't any sign of forced entry. The only thing suspicious was that one door to the house had been left slightly ajar.
It hurts to know that somebody would walk in their house and shoot them.
Held tight in Dennis and Linda's hands is a picture of Kristen and James Brock, the two found shot and killed in Carrollton early Thursday morning.
You know, if it was of natural causes, you would maybe feel differently. But to go this way, it's really tough.
Dennis is Kristen's dad. He says his daughter and James have been together for close to 10 years and were raising 3 kids. The 5 and 16-year-old waking up to find both of them shot to death in their bed.
She went into the bedroom, and because she, I guess, assumed that my daughter Kristen would have been up by this time, and she went to wake her and she grabbed her hand, and she said her hand was ice cold, and looked a little further and realized that she was deceased. And she dialed 911.
Dennis says this whole situation is bizarre. He says the two were extremely active in their church and James was waiting for a heart transplant. And not just that, but nothing in the house was missing and there were no signs of a break-in.
If there was something they wanted in the house, they could have taken it and they probably would never woke up. But for some reason, they wanted them dead. And I want to know why.
Since the shooting, Carroll County deputies have been at the house nonstop, trying to piece together who killed Kristen and James.
He told me they're going to, if they have to turn over every blade of grass in the yard, they're going to do that to find something to go by.
Other than that, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office had remained pretty tight-lipped about their investigation, saying only that they had been going through a, quote, mountain of physical and digital evidence, end quote. We know through Sarah's social media posts that her cell phone was taken in for analysis, which is typical in cases like this, and they undoubtedly went through Kristen and James's devices as well. Close friends of Kristen and James posted that there were 5 shots total with the shotgun, but that has not been confirmed by police, I want to say. So after the murders, Sarah went to stay with her father, Daniel, and little brother, Donnie. Jaley, who has to just be completely traumatized, stayed with her grandmother, but Daniel has taken Sarah and Donnie to visit Jaley these last couple of months while the investigation was still ongoing. So on March 8th, a funeral service was held for James and Kristen at their beloved church, and many people, including Sarah, got up to speak. In fact, let's listen to what Sarah had to say about her parents.
I just wanted to say goodbye to my mama and Jamie since we never got the chance to. I was so used to you guys always being here to the point that I never once thought to imagine y'all not being here. I didn't have a single clue how much I needed y'all until now. For James, thank you for all the life lessons you taught me and for being the best bonus dad ever. Your heart will finally be healed in heaven and neither of y'all will be in any pain anymore. Although that gives me so much comfort, your fight was not supposed to end there. Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people with us today. Therefore, when someone tries to tell you anything, no matter how important it could be, just listen, because you never know when it's somebody's time to go. You could say goodnight and wake up a few hours just to find out they aren't there, despite their joy and their love. So just listen and never take a hug or anyone or anything for granted and love with all that you have in you like they did.
After that, Sarah began documenting her grief on her TikTok account.
He doesn't know it, but a year from now, our family will be torn apart, and I will move far away and won't see or talk to him for 5 years.
One thing that was especially hard for her was after all of the evidence was gathered, their family home was completely cleared out and their extra belongings, they were sold. Sarah talked about how heartbreaking it was to realize that she would never be going home again. She wrote things like, quote, "I just want to go home. I feel so homesick and I miss them so much. I can't stand the fact I can't see them anymore. This sucks more than anything possible. I feel like I'm in a horror movie that never ends. And on top of everything, I still have no answers. I'm so confused on how someone could have done this and even more confused on why. Why them? Why that? Just why? How could they?" End quote. And then, quote, "I'll never forget her last time speaking to me. She came in my room when I was in bed watching a show and she told me goodnight in a deep voice, acting silly. I should have hugged her. And when James talked to me last, he told me, 'I love you' and goodnight through the door. It tears me apart that I didn't open that door and give him a hug." End quote. She also asked anyone with potential information to come forward, saying, quote, "I need my mom more than ever right now. And I know that I cannot get closure because nothing will bring them back. If you know something, please speak up and help me and my family heal." End quote. There were other social media posts asking, "Why me?" As well as, "It hits me when I see my 5-year-old sister screaming, crying for her mommy and daddy." Kristen's father even posted a $5,000 reward for anyone with information about who committed this heinous and senseless crime. Even Kristen's ex-husband Daniel wrote, quote, "It's not fair that they are not here. It's not fair for the kids. It's not fair for the families. I'm sick of waiting for answers. I can't wait for them to catch the assholes that did this. Please excuse my language, but I am angry." End quote. In May of 2025, Sarah went on to graduate just as planned from high school, although it was bittersweet for everyone in the family without Kristen and James getting to be there as the first person in the family graduated high school. Since then, Sarah has been staying with various family and friends, seemingly trying to find her footing in this world as an almost adult and without her mother. To help bring attention to the case, Sarah messaged several true crime creators and asked them to cover her family's story. And even though the story was covered on local Georgia news, the updates had kind of fizzled out, honestly. Nowadays, social media, true crime channels, and TikToks are some of the best ways to raise awareness. And one creator called Allegedly Reportedly agreed to help Sarah and talk about her parents' case. Over the course of the next month, the Carroll County Police continued diligently to sift through evidence, looking at leads, and the family was doing their best to cope. The community was also eager for answers because, as far as they knew, a random killer shot 2 strangers in cold blood and was still on the loose. In a TikTok exchange, Sarah wrote, quote, "Lock your doors and keep your pew-pew close by is all I have to say. I don't know what else could have saved them." End quote. It's been over 4 months now since the murders, and 2 days ago, on July 9th, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office conducted a press conference and announced that they have had a break in the case. After securing arrest warrants, Danielle Patrick brought in his daughter, Sarah Grace, and turned her over to police. While we do not know all of the details of their investigation, spokeswoman Ashley Hulsey said that they collaborated with the FBI and GBI Crime Lab, and all of the evidence points to Sarah as being the one who committed this crime. She's being charged as an adult for 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. Let's listen in on parts of this press conference.
From the very moment the 911 call was received, a relentless investigation began, one that would span months, consume thousands of man-hours, and require the full weight of the local and federal law enforcement agency partnerships. Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather.
At what point did investigators begin to focus on her as the suspect?
So I believe in the beginning of any case, everyone's a suspect. I think I told many of you that when we were on scene that day. However, as an investigation continues and everything ebbs and flows, like I said in my press release, mountains of evidence has gotten us through here today. Lots of processing, lots of working with our law enforcement partners to get us to where we are today that honed in on her as a suspect.
Do you believe that she tried to cover this up in any way over the course of these months? You know, we've even seen some videos on social media of somebody saying, you know, I'm making this message on behalf of the daughter, and he believes she tried to get people to cover up anything.
Considering that she didn't just immediately tell us what happened, yes. But who knows what's going on in a young person's mind like that. But she has been arrested and charged now, and we feel confident that she is responsible for their murders. But like I said, it is an open, ongoing investigation. It's very possible others are involved as well.
So I think we can all agree that other than James and Kristen, Jaley is absolutely a victim in this case as well, of course, as their other children. And if Sarah did truly commit this crime and knowingly allowed her little sister to come across the bodies of her parents, this makes us all question why. Why would Sarah allow this to happen? And several family members have admitted to questioning Sarah's story even before her arrest. Some have started having suspicions about Sarah's story. For example, she allegedly told police that she did not hear anything that night, but it's difficult to imagine an intruder followed by 5 gunshots making absolutely no sound. Not only that, but I mentioned that James was on a heart monitor that would alert at night if anything was wrong. It's been reported that Sarah admitted to hearing that alarm going off all night, but never went to her parents' room to check that everything was okay. This monitor would also be able to tell investigators the exact moment James passed away, which likely helped them to formulate a more definitive timeline. In one Facebook post, James's niece, Kristen, wrote, quote, "I sat front row at their funerals as this little bitch stood up in front of everyone and fake cried about how much she missed Jamie and Kristen. So now everyone can get a front row seat to her mugshot for murdering her own mother and stepfather. I saw right through you. Enjoy prison," end quote. James's other son, Jaden's mother, made this heart-wrenching post as well. That said, quote, "Some nights hit harder than others. He's been sleeping with a picture of his dad lately, holding it close like he's trying to feel his presence again. He just found out something no child should ever have to learn, that the person who took his father from him was someone he trusted. My heart breaks for him," end quote. During the press conference, Officer Halsey also said that just because Sarah has been arrested doesn't necessarily mean they're done investigating. Oh no, the investigation continues right now. They believe that someone else may have been involved, and so does the family. Some are speculating that the motive may have been due to Sarah's parents limiting her contact with the older boyfriend, and some believe that he may be involved. We do not know. But what we do know is Sarah couldn't have purchased a firearm herself at only 16 when the murders took place, and the family didn't own a firearm. Others have speculated that even though she was no longer dating Jackson, he was coincidentally arrested only days ago on firearms charges. Some have wondered if he could have given Sarah the gun and then turned on her after his arrest. But again, that's just speculation. Regardless of who it was, her family tells me that they believe more information will be coming to light and soon, leading to possibly another arrest or charges. We don't know. So as you might expect, when a young girl kills her mom and stepdad for seemingly no reason, people start to wonder what is going on in the home. People have asked if it was possible that James was abusive towards Sarah, but her own words to a friend seem to shut those allegations down. The family friend posted these messages with Sarah on TikTok, where she categorically denies any abuse from James, her stepdad. Quote, "Jamie has never touched you in any way inappropriately. Please tell me the truth. You can be honest with me. I just need to make sure," end quote. And Sarah replies to this friend, quote, "He would never, ever, ever do that. He was never weird like that. He wouldn't even come into my room because he knew I slept naked," end quote. She also talked about how much she loved her mother and James and how they were really the only ones who really understood her. So then what caused her to snap? What could cause such a beautiful, intelligent girl with her entire life ahead of her to do this? Police have said that they even used Sarah's eulogy at the funeral as proof of her trying to cover her tracks. The fact that she tried to capitalize the story on TikTok for either attention or as a way to seem like a grieving daughter is equally as disturbing. I mean, what guilty person would ask true crime channels to cover the case unless they think that it will help them cover the truth? Here's what allegedly, reportedly had to say to Inside Edition about her interaction with Sarah. Take a listen.
I heard about it on June 4th of this year when Sarah Grace herself reached out to me via TikTok Messenger, and she asked if I could cover the case of her parents who had been murdered and it was unsolved. I get requests like that a lot, so I agreed to do it and showed her compassion, and then yesterday happened.
What happened yesterday?
I learned that Sarah Grace herself, the one that requested that I make a video, was arrested for the murders of her parents, her mother and stepfather. She, was using terms like, oh, I think you should post about this because it will be a big story. And immediately I felt like, if I were 17 or 16 and my parents had been the victims of a brutal crime, I wouldn't be thinking about the views someone else could get off of that. She also started responding to other comments on my video. Someone asked what the mode of this crime was, and she answered with an emoji of what weapon was used. So that is now very haunting to look back on after this arrest.
Did you see any evidence at all that Sarah Grace might have been the person who killed her mother and stepfather?
Just as a layperson, knowing that there did not appear to be forced entry, that she claims she did not hear these gunshots, it did strike me as odd as I started researching it more, and I can't say, the more and more I read about it, I did have some questions. So when this arrest came out, I was still very shocked, but it made a bit of sense to me based on the crime scene and what I had heard about it.
And while most people would have described Sarah as a sweet girl, she's also been described as very self-absorbed with a why me attitude. I mean, she literally posted a picture with a caption, "Why me?" It's just really hard to fathom her committing such a heinous and permanent act when people have pointed out that she could have gone to stay with her dad or just waited until after graduation to get out of there, get her own apartment if she really wanted to. Nothing anyone can see defends what she has been charged with, as well as the amount of pain and suffering she's left behind for her siblings and other family members if she is truly guilty of these crimes. Personally, I think there must be someone else involved. But of course, I don't know. Speculation. Until we know a concrete timeline, it seems obvious that if Jaley were in the house during the gunshots, she would have heard them as well. We don't know how long it was between the shooting and Jaley getting up to go to her parents' room after hearing the alarm. So maybe someone else took her out of the house when this was occurring. I don't know. I'm sure even at 5 years old, she was just able to tell investigators how long she heard the alarm going off on her father's heart monitor and if it was that sound or the sound of gunshots that woke her up. Also, since there was no gun found in the home, no gun, Sarah had to either get rid of it herself before Jaley went into her parents' room, or someone had to have taken it away from her. I'm sure we will learn all of these details as the case progresses. And Officer Halsey insinuated that there was digital evidence as well. And so I wonder what? Perhaps text messages, GPS data, search history? We will just have to wait and see. And we are waiting. On June 13th, Sarah's dad, Daniel, posted this note that she left him that said, quote, "Dear Dad, I love you so much, and I don't know what I'd do if God didn't send me to you. I love you, and I know a lot has happened, but just know I love you, and we got this," end quote. Some people have wondered if this insinuates that he knew what Sarah did, or maybe she was trying to subtly let him know. He also posted, quote, "To my daughter, I will always be in your corner," end quote. However, some friends and family members have said that at this point, they have no reason to believe that Daniel knew what Sarah did, and he did the right thing by bringing her to the police station and making her turn herself in. But what do you think happened? Do you believe Sarah is guilty? And if so, why do you think Sarah did this? What do you think her goal was in posting all of those TikToks? Of course, there will always be family dynamics at play that outsiders cannot ever understand or see. But still, murder is such a drastic, permanent reaction to family conflict, and now countless lives are painfully altered forever over this heinous crime. After overcoming so much, literally beating the odds and surviving heart failure, sticking to sobriety, getting closer to God, growing as people, It is an absolute tragedy for Kristen and James to have been taken like this, and I cannot even imagine the sadness, confusion, and betrayal their loved ones are feeling. Everyone who knew them said that they were the most friendly, generous, and compassionate people, and they wholeheartedly loved each other and every one of their children. Hopefully, we will learn more details about the investigation soon, and we, of course, at Hidden True Crime will keep you updated. So hit subscribe, and we will keep this case going until Kristen and James and their loved ones hopefully receive justice. Thank you.